3 months early.
Did I? 3 months early?
Anniversary.
A Rotary anniversary, not birthday.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have said, what are you up to? Come on up for just a minute and tell us what you think is one of the outstanding moments in your Rotary life.
Well, there's lots of them, as most of us can say. Probably the most exotic was 2 weeks spent in southern India with the rotoplast. I was the photographer, blogger for a rotoplast outing near Bangalore, Bengaluru, as they now call it. And then I'll never forget a Cajun standing back with the beer in one hand and an oar in the other, paddling gumbo in a big pot. So you don't get things like that unless you join Rotary.
Thank you, Rod. Wonderful moments. Okay, and we have some Paul Harris Fellow presentations. Got a picture of the founder of our organization up here, Paul Harris, in 1905. So come on up, Bill. You can use mine. Okay.
In case you want to talk.
So I'd like to welcome up Rod and Bob Teaser. I think it's particularly appropriate with Rod that at the same time he's celebrating his 21st anniversary with us, we're also celebrating the fact that he doesn't just get things from Rotary, he contributes and gives back to Rotary. With the Rotary Foundation, that's how you get a Paul Harris, is you donate $1,000 or more to the Rotary Foundation, and then additional increments of $1,000 get you additional levels of donation. The Rotary Foundation is fairly unique. How many give to other things? Red Cross, American Cancer Society, and how many of you are direct recipients of those organizations that you donated to? You ever get back from the Red Cross? Do you ever house burn down? Or do you ever have a heart attack? Or you may have known somebody, but you're not a direct recipient. Think about the Rotary Foundation. We're not making donations. We're making a temporary loan, and in 3 years, we get it back. The purpose of the Rotary Foundation is to help us fund our efforts 3 years hence. So this is not just a donation going off in space someplace. This is a donation to ourselves in 3 years. So keep that in mind next time you write that big check to the Rotary Foundation. And remember, one of our goals is always every Rotarian every year. Make at least a $100 donation to the Rotary Foundation every year for every member of the club. So keep that in mind and get out your checkbooks and pens tonight. So, Rod, you are a Paul Harris +4, and I am honored to be able to pin you here. That doesn't mean we're going to the prom together. Actually, I would like Rod to talk. Tell us why you give to the Rotary Foundation and
Well, it's pretty simple. Give it to Rotary because it's probably the most cost-effective gift. Hey, the overhead is covered by some endowment, so virtually every dollar you give ends up helping build a water system or trade peace fellows or whatever. So it works.
every year for the last 30, 40 years. Rotary Foundation is one of the highest rated by Charity Navigator and all those other organizations that tell you where your money is going. You know, I donate to Red Cross too and all that, but Rotary Foundation is typically always at the highest in every category. Transparency, effectiveness of use, all of that stuff. So look it up sometime. And Bob Kieser. Paul Harris +3. Diana, would you pin him? And Bob, would you give us some of your thoughts on the Rotary Foundation?
Well, talking about the water systems, that was what got me to join Rotary. My wife and I were in Cambodia, and we saw Rotary wells in action, and it was making a difference. And to me, that's the whole thing with giving to Rotary, is that it does make a difference. Not a small difference, but in Cambodia, a large difference, because all of a sudden we're not getting sick. I always feel very secure in my money.
Let's give these guys a hand.
And thank you for your generosity. That was wonderful. Yeah, it's been going on from 1957. It's terrific. Okay, and just a quick note, went to a ball game last night. Wonderful. It's great to see Sarah out there. And we're cheering for your team. That was fun. Yeah. And
Did she tell us how they did?
well, the other team won by a point.
Yeah, we unfortunately lost yesterday, but it was still a funny game. Thank you so much for coming. That was really fun. Yeah. It was Korea, so yeah. But we were playing them on their senior night, so we expect to win. We'll see.
Be careful, he was a president.
Yeah, well, I know, but we're putting in a new rule.
If you missed it, you can come on the second. And I've got a question. Who is the new captain of the varsity team at Annalee Soccer?
Are you with?
Great, thank you. And thank you for the pizza, David. Okay, that was fun. Okay, we've just had a lot going on in the club. And Dan Needham has been right in the center of all of it. I've been watching. And this is the club's support of the Ives Pool. Would you care to say a word or two, Dan?
Just one of the many organizations that we have the honor of being able to support is Ives Pool. That's where we do our annual Learn to Swim program, where all of the second graders in town get swimming lessons every year. And we try to get drown-proof all the crit kids, and some of them go on to some good swimming careers. So they very much appreciate our support.
Okay, thank you. Don't go away, here's another one.
This is to Ron Karp, over there in Forestville, another great worthy organization that serves those with AIDS and other critical illnesses, and they've been doing a fine job in our local community, helping people eat healthy food for many, many years. And they very much appreciated our support this year.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, and Rotary has been at work again at the post office. Again, our community service is there and joining with the Noon Club to keep this city looking good. Thank you. And, yeah, this was a major move. Michael, would you just say a few words?
If you were involved in helping move the storage unit on Monday, please stand up. We are small, but we are mighty, I'll tell you what. I looked at it going into the project, and I figured this is gonna take us at least 2 or 3 days to move it all. We had 6 trucks show up, we had 7 or 8 volunteers show up. We moved it all and we established it out at the new location in 4 hours.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Unbelievable, and then we all went home and died. But it was fantastic. We've been wanting to do this for a long time. We still need to do a little more cleanup and sorting things, but we kicked butt, I want to tell you.
We got rid of a whole bunch of old
Wow.
junk that we never should have been storing to begin with.
And this was found in storage. Joe, you sent me a picture.
I did. You know, it was a little like an archaeological dig when we went in there. We found stuff from holiday tour wines. We still have glasses. We don't need to buy cups for maybe 10 years. There is a lot of stuff, but there are some signage and things. Some of the stuff didn't make the cut, Scott, I'm sorry to say. Some of his artwork went to the dump. But and somebody might have picked it, maybe selling it now. Could be. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, and you don't need to go into the graphic details, Al Lustig, a former member of ours, had the infamous camel joke. So having seen the picture of the camel, I thought I would bring that back. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Why is that camel so happy? So did we keep this, or we're gonna get it down? We're gonna get it up to hell?
Yeah, you better send that to Al.
That's funny. Thank you, Joe. Love that. Okay, Kathy, you had a few words for us.
I just want to say that, thank you. As president-elect, this Saturday, I was at a Free Pets president-elect, anyway, it's a training session. It was fantastic. We had a guest speaker, Salvador Rico. He talked about, cleaning the rivers around the world. Oh, just so amazing. There was a lot of stuff that I won't go into, but over the time I will. All of us should be still contributing to polio every year. If we could do $100 a year, that would be terrific. It's great to support our foundation, but when we do support the World Foundation, that's how we get the rotoplast done in different international projects. So I'm learning a lot about that. There was just a lot of information. And then I was invited to the international meeting for our region. And it was so great because, of course, our club, we're teeny, but like Michael said, we're so mighty. We've got David Mark Raven working on the Mexico project. We've got Michael Cook working on 2 projects, Nepal, and of course e-medicine, but there were so many other things too. So if you go to that committee, you'll start to know everything and all the trips coming up. Like the end of November, you might want to go to Egypt. And it'll be an environmental thing. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. I'm super excited. To go to Pets, which will be the first weekend of March. And more news to come because it's very exciting. And I hope all of you might think about doing things on a higher level because it'll feed you. And these guest speakers are phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Terrific. Looking forward to your year. Thank you. Okay, do we have any announcements today?
Just food for thought. The Apple Blossom Festival is coming up, and then in the fall we have the Rego Ranch festival coming up. Apple Harvest Festival, yeah. We in the past have done booths, food booths. We've done tamales. Thinking this year Sloppy Joe's. We dug out the booth and we're pretty well ready to go with it. So I'd like you to think about it. You know, it'll be 2 days of intensive work, 4 days in total, 2 days at each event. But Sloppy Joe's are easy to do, and I think we can make some money at it. And I think that it'll be a good presence for Rotary in the community. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I don't want to take it on alone, but if you're interested, let me know, and we'll get it done.
Can you put out the dates for that, Michael?
It's
Or you know?
end of
It's
April.
last weekend of April. Are we doing anything for a parade this year? Just asking. Are they, or for the parade? We are gonna do one. Are we going to do?
Assume so, we always have.
Yeah, we're planning on it.
All right.
Kathy, sorry, that's.
Oh, Kathy. I know that. I would have said something sooner.
It's always fun, and last year Linda's idea, the superheroes, was terrific. We used it twice. That was great.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Not my resume.
All right, do we have any gratitude today? Oh, you have an announcement?
Announcement, yeah. So, as you know, Global Telemedicine occasionally does a fundraiser, and we have one scheduled for March 4th, and this time it's going to be held in person over at John Boletto's winery in his new event center, which is exciting. It's $100 a piece to come there and enjoy internationally themed food and have a chance to get some goodies, bid on them, or just go ahead and donate to support Global Telemedicine. I know this club's done a lot in that regard, and we launched the Magnificent project in Tanzania that's taken off like a shot. We're tracking them now on WhatsApp, so they have they're making arrangements to do the mutual support of doctors consulting with doctors across institutions, which is what we're trying to foster, expanding access to specialist care. And it's working great in Tanzania. We got another one coming up in Uganda. So we need help make all that happen and come out and have a good time.
What's the
March
date
4th.
on the?
March 4th,
March 4th?
5 to 7 p.m. over at John's.
Okay, we'll get that on our calendar.
That would be good. I sent you a slide so you can put that up there.
Great. Okay, and do we have any gratitude today? Oh, there's a couple of grateful people here.
So I'm back from my trip, and on the 24th of December, our youngest daughter FaceTimed me. I'm gonna go back about 6 months. Her significant other of about 5 years came, made a trip from Sacramento to our house and asked if he could propose to her. And so we of course said yes, because we love him and he loves her. And then we were anxiously waiting, when was this gonna happen? And we never said anything to the daughter. And so on the 24th, she FaceTimes us and, you know, oh, it's Christmas Eve, then blah, blah, blah. And she puts her hand out. And of course, I didn't say, well, is that an engagement ring? She said, well, you know what this means, don't you? And I said, what? He proposed. So that was good. And then I said, did he get on his knee and ask? And she said, no. And I said, well, Jared, get on your knee and ask. So he did. So that was cool. And then the next day we got back from church and my niece says, oh, let's do a family photo. And at church, the person taking photos was being silly and telling us to say funny things. So she puts the camera up and here's us here and she says, okay, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3, I'm pregnant. And we're just standing there thinking, not knowing what to think, yeah. And she's got this on video, it wasn't just a regular camera, it was just a picture. And then she says, I'm pregnant. And then it was like, Oh my God. Anyway, so we have, this year is going to be interesting, that baby's due June 30th, July 1st, and we don't have a date for the wedding. I think it's gonna be around September. Anyway, I'm happy, gonna be, I think the new term these days is Bronte, grand aunt, and mom-in-law officially. So I will give $100 to our foundation.
Thank you. And one more, we're running short, so good. Thank
It's
you.
worth the wait. As many of you know, I've been traveling, and I mean, do we have the prettiest banner or what? This is kind of plain, but I had a wonderful time in New York and visited the Rotary Club of New York, number 6, great program, all about first responders. In fact, it's a nationwide nonprofit, and they want to use, I don't know if you've seen that picture of my son Jimmy with his fire hat and his newborn baby. They want to use it for their nationwide, yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that, but
How did they find that?
I was at the meeting and I passed my phone around. The question is, how was I able to pull it out of the archives? But I had a great time visiting in New York, so here's the flag.
Thank
And,
you.
got to go to the Museum of Modern Art, where Marnie's daughter is a curator. Got to see all her exhibits. It was amazing. Thank you, Marnie. And from the MoMA, another ornament. Starry, Starry Nights.
Oh,
just for you.
that's gorgeous. One of my favorites. Thank you.
Welcome.
Wonderful. And we missed you, but we sure enjoyed all the pictures of Facebook. That was great. Thank you so much, Linda. Okay, we have to move on. We do have the food bank tonight, the tailgate party on the 2nd, and we will do a First Friday. I'm sure that Kathy will get that out to us, where to meet. And next week, we had a cancellation, so it's to be arranged. We'll get that going from Charlie. And now we have a presentation from Eddie Ingram and the Sheriff's Department. Let me get your slides up.
And I'll do a little introduction here. So Sheriff Coroner Eddie Ingram is our speaker today. He grew up in Union City. He graduated he attended Eastern Michigan University and Cal State and has a degree in criminal justice management. I'm going to be brief because we want to listen to him, not me. He's headed up all of the very difficult departments over time. He served as a domestic violence, sexual assault detective for many years. He's managed the hostage negotiation teams, crisis intervention training program, Explorer program, defensive tactics, and body-worn camera program. He's gotten many promotions over the years, moving from up to sergeant and lieutenant and assistant sheriff, and now is our duly elected sheriff. I could go on for a long time, but I really want to hear what Sheriff Eddie Ingram has to tell us. And thank you very much for making the time out of your busy schedule to be here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Before I get started, I want to hit on the question that I always get asked, and I actually was asked this morning, is what's the difference between the sheriff's office and the police department? And really the difference is that obviously the sheriff is elected, a police chief is appointed by the city manager or the city council. The sheriff serves mostly in an unincorporated area, and the police department serve in an incorporated area. So for example, Sebastopol Police serve the city of Sebastopol, and Grayton is an unincorporated area, and that's the service of the sheriff's office. So we provide law enforcement services in that area. We do not do traffic, that's CHP. So that's when we always do. Vehicle complaints, we always call. But traffic in an unincorporated area is CHP. We do have 2 contract cities, which is Sonoma and Windsor, and we perform all services in that city, so law enforcement and traffic. Also, the sheriff is the county emergency response person for the county. So anytime that we have a major emergency, whether it be fire or flood, the sheriff is responsible for that. And the sheriff is the only one who can order evacuation. The sheriff is also responsible for coroner services, serving civil paperwork, evictions, maintaining a jail, and maintaining a search and rescue for the county that the sheriff is. So those are the major differences between the sheriff and the police department. So we already talked a little bit about my background. In addition to growing up in Union City, I also grew up when I was younger in a city called East Palo Alto. I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with it, but when I lived there, it wasn't necessarily a good city. So full of crime, drugs, gangs, and that was what I grew up in. My mom made a choice for us to leave the state, so we leave East Palo Alto, which had us leave the state, and we ended up living in Tampa. That decision by my mom changed my life. And to illustrate that, my brother and I are the only male members of our family who have not been in jail or prison. And I was the first male member of my family to graduate college. So that decision that she made so should be clapping for her. So that decision that she made really changed the course of my life and my brother's life. I started my career at Sebastopol County Sheriff's Office as a correctional officer, and I worked there for correctional officer for about a year before I promoted to deputy sheriff, and then I came to Sonoma County in 2002. So I've been here in this county working for the sheriff's office for just 2 years. Sheriff's Office has a budget fiscal year 21 to 22 of $209 million. That's split over 3 divisions: the detention division, the law enforcement division, and the administrative services division. That budget, primarily about 60% of it, is taken up by salaries and benefits, which is typical in most businesses, but also in our medical services contract with our medical provider in the jail, which is about a $14 million contract. Our food services contract is about a $7 million contract. We have various contracts throughout the department. 663 allocated positions. That's across all divisions. We have patrol, detention, court security, coroner, civil, and search and rescue. Fiscal year 21-22, we had a little over 1,700 arrests, 30,000 calls for service. And a call for service isn't just a call for 911. That combines the things that the deputies do that are self-initiated, so car stops, pedestrian stops, anything that a deputy does, as well as anything that they are dispatched to. So that's, sorry, that's 30,000 911 calls, 55,000 calls for service. And that's what the difference is. A 911 call is a call that is, and then a call for service is something that we initiate or something that we respond to. Our average response time for priority 1 calls is 11 minutes and 12 seconds, which if you live in Sebastopol, sorry. If you live in Sebastopol, that sounds like a really long time, but when you look at the sheriff's office and the areas we serve, depending on where you are, that time could be longer or shorter. For example, if you're on the coast, Sea Ranch, you may be looking at that 11-minute time. If you are in town of Windsor, that may be a minute or 2. So it really depends on where it is, but that's overall what our call for service is. And we have 1.37 deputies per 1,000 residents. As for the jail, fiscal year 21-22, 11,000 bookings, and that's a down year. Remember, it's a COVID year, so that was down. Our average daily population at that time was 732. Prior to the pandemic, our daily average daily population was about 1,150. That was between 2 facilities. Our North County facility, which used to be referred to as the farm, at the minimum medium security facility, and the main adult detention facility, which is our main facility that's next to the courthouse. So our numbers pre and post COVID, we really haven't seen them starting to tick back up. We really don't know what that is. During COVID, we closed our North County facility. We closed our North County facility, and we really haven't opened it. So in July, it'll be 2 years that we've had that facility closed, which is good for us because I don't know if you've heard, but we've had a bit of a staffing shortage, not only in the jail but on the patrol side. And I think that is something that's going on throughout all law enforcement. But there's been a real lack of interest in people getting into law enforcement, and really the law enforcement is cyclical. You'll have a period of time where you will hire a bunch of employees because you have a bunch leaving. So people get in, law enforcement is a 20 to 30 year kind of lifespan in that career. So we have points in time where we hire a lot of people, and then we don't hire a lot of people for a long period of time. And then all these people end up retiring. So when I started back in 1999, I would show up to apply for a law enforcement job because there were a lot of vacancies, and there'd be a gymnasium filled with 200, 300 people just trying to get into 20 or 30 jobs. And once those jobs are filled, it's really one person getting hired here, two to three people getting hired here. So everyone that I was hired with, now they're all retirement age, and they're all retiring. So we're looking at, and I'm the one who stayed. I decided to run, and they're laughing at me as they're going on vacation. But this is where we really are, is that people are retiring because it's really cyclical. But getting back to the jail, we have daily population is 732. 48% of those individuals in the jail have a mental health diagnosis, so a little bit over 300. And 38% identify as homeless. There's a lot of overlap. And I think, from my experience and from what I see, I think that that's what's really driving the homelessness issue that we have is mental health, and in conjunction with addiction, because about 30% of our inmates are also suffering from addiction. So co-occurring disorders of mental health and addiction, some just mental health, some just addiction. But if you look at that number, about 38 being self-identified as homeless, it really tells you what you're looking at when you start talking about our homeless problem here in Sonoma County. 47 of our inmates have been treated with medical assisted treatment for opioid addiction, and that's a program that started in a jail in 2020. We offer 79 classes, and that's anywhere from anger management to GED to our partnership with the Santa Rosa Junior College and providing college classes. We also have classes for work in our kitchen, they get their kitchen certification. So when they leave custody, they have that certification and they can possibly work in the food industry. Where we're headed in the future, for me, public safety is number one, improving hiring and diversity. So as we move into hiring more people, and that's a big push that we're making now, we also want to diversify what our workforce looks like. That's been something that's been a criticism of the Sheriff's Office for over 20 years, is that the Sheriff's Office does not reflect diversity-wise communities that we serve, meaning women in law enforcement, as well as people of color. So that is one of my big pushes. One of the things that we're doing now is we are offering hiring bonuses for entry-level positions. So if you know someone who is interested in law enforcement, whether that be correctional deputy or dispatcher or deputy sheriff, we have a $25,000 hiring bonus. If you know someone who works for a law enforcement agency, tell them that that agency is not good and they should work for the sheriff's office, and we'll give you $30,000. We're really making that push to get people into the sheriff's office and diversify the department. We're also really basic policing, embracing constructive oversight. Many of you have probably voted for Measure P, and it's kind of been fits and starts. We are working with ILRO's office and getting that going. The new director, John Alden, I'm really excited to work with him. He comes from an oversight background, having done that work in San Francisco and in Oakland, so I really look forward to working with him. We've had some really great constructive meetings so far since he's been in his role, and I've been in my role as sheriff-elect / sheriff since June. And I think that when everything is said and done, the oversight and accountability that people are looking for will be achieved. Also looking at improving detention services. I mentioned the 79 programs we have in the jail. We're also looking at bringing in additional substance use disorder programs because we really feel that if we can address the things that we have while people are in the jail, their addiction and mental health, and able to tie them into services when they leave, that will alleviate, number one, the population of people coming back into the jail, the recidivism rate, and also do what we can do to address the homelessness issue on the street. We can get someone who enters into our jail and they're spending a year or so there. We work with their addiction, we work with their mental health, we connect them with community services, and hopefully find a place for them to live once they leave custody. that will help ensure that they don't come back into custody and they don't end up on the street. We are also looking at improving our response to mental health. And this is sort of the trend where everyone is going, not just in the county, but throughout the state and the country. Santa Rosa has the in-response unit that many of you may have heard about, which is where you send a clinician to a mental health emergency that is nonviolent, instead of sending a police officer. A lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes, those incidents can go really bad really quickly. We have a little bit of difference with Santa Rosa and some of the cities, just due to our geography. If someone is into a nonviolent situation, it's nonviolent at that time. That doesn't mean it can't be violent. But if you send a clinician in the city of Santa Rosa, their response time could be a minute to 2 minutes to get there to help those clinicians with that emergency. If we do that here in the county, we send a clinician to Geyserville or somewhere near Cloverdale, may not be a deputy that can get to them, for 10 or 15 minutes. So what that looks like is something that we'll have to work with. Also, what cities don't have and what the county does have is a behavioral health department. So we have a county behavioral health who is responsible for mental health services throughout the county. So they provide those services. So if a city says, hey, we want this program, they can just do it. The mayor and city council get together and they do it. But the county having 28 different agencies, each responsible for their own thing, it really has to be a collaboration between the sheriff's office and the county behavioral health. We'd like to maintain our excellent disaster response. We got to see that in action early, a couple of weeks ago out in the river. Luckily, the projections didn't hit to where we thought they were, and the river just barely flooded. So it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. But they were projected at one point it being 40 feet, which is about 8 or 9 feet over flood stage. So we did not get there, but this is something that, unfortunately and fortunately, the sheriff's office has become really good at over the past few years. We can go fire in our sleep now, unfortunately, but we've had 4 or 5 of them since 2017. When we first had the Tubbs fire, something like that on that scale hadn't happened in 40 years. And we learned a little bit more at the Kincaid fire. Then we had Walbridge, and then we had Glass. So every time there is a major incident like that, we learn a little bit more. We get a little bit better. I don't know if a lot of you remember that in 2019, where we essentially evacuated the entire west side of the county. That was a major lesson that we learned, and now we have the smaller, more manageable evacuation areas. So that was just an example of one of the lessons we've learned in having to deal with these different emergencies. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I went through it a little bit faster than normal because I know we're kind of on a time crunch, and I found that typically people like to ask questions. So I wanted to make sure I left time for questions. That's it.
Is Friends Outside still part of the jail?
I'm sorry?
Is the program called Friends Outside still part of the jail?
Yeah, Friends Outside is still part of the jail. We've had challenges, I should say, during COVID and continuing to keep our program going. A lot of them have been able to go hybrid, but Friends Outside was one of the first ones that we let back in through the glass, not necessarily inside, because periodically, as you may have read, we do have COVID exposure and we have to lock down different units. But we are still working with Friends Outside.
So your slide showed that 48% of the inmates are diagnosed with mental illness. How big of a psychiatric staff for treatment do you have inside the jail?
We have a full-time psychiatrist. We are allocated, I believe, 12 clinicians. Allocations versus filled, that's a different number. So we have clinicians and we work with them on a daily basis. We have a unit that is called the Jail-Based Competency Program unit that we have. And so we have people who are sometimes deemed incompetent to stand trial. This program works with them to restore their competency. The mental health contract is up for renegotiation, and we're thinking that contract's probably going to be about a $7 million a year contract.
What is the average stay of someone in the county jail?
Well, that is a difficult number to give you, and the reason I say that is that there have been a lot of things that have changed within the law in the state of California, AB 109 being the most important one. And And what that did was shift state inmates, state nonviolent inmates, to the county jail. So if someone is convicted of stealing a vehicle, forgery, burglary that didn't involve violence, that person would normally serve, 3 to 7 years in the state prison. Instead, they serve 3 to 7 years in the county jail. So our pre-AB 109, our average time in the county jail was probably about 1.5 to 2 years as they wait pretrial, which is essentially what a jail is for, right? Pretrial confinement for those who can't make bail, and for those serving as a jail sentence, misdemeanor typically, of a year or less. Now with AB 109, the inmates to decrease their population in the state prisons have been shifted to the county jail. So what that number is, we don't really calculate it anymore because it doesn't mean as much to us, but I do know that we have someone who's serving 9 years in our jail who would have otherwise went to prison.
Recently, the sheriff's department announced we're going away from Nixle to another emergency notification. Remind us what the name of that is, and do you have any sense that the other municipalities may jump on board with that?
So that was Santa Rosa that went away from Nixle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the sheriff's office, we are still using Nixle.
Great.
I'm just curious what your opinion is about, I don't know if it's been implemented already, but the no bail issue for people that are arrested.
So no bail as a law has not been issued, but I don't know if you're aware, the judges for each individual county set what the bail schedule is for that county. We had emergency no bail during COVID, and then it was rescinded, but in the new structuring of the bail schedule, which is done every year, a lot of offenses were essentially made no bail announced by the judges. I don't really have a personal opinion on bail. I think that the studies have shown that bail does work, and then there are studies that show that bail doesn't work. Bail doesn't make a difference. I think it depends on what study you're looking at. Studies and statistics could say all sorts of things. I think that for me as sheriff, if I had an opinion on every law or every piece of legislation that was passed, my head would be spinning. So the way I go about approaching my job is whatever the law is, that's what I'm going to enforce.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for your service. And as just a person, if I see someone who's homeless and they seem to have mental issues, or what would you recommend?
I think if you were concerned whether they could care for themselves, that would be a situation where you would call law enforcement or wherever you live and have them evaluate if that's a person who is in need of 5150 to provide mental health services. And if not, at least you get the chance for the officers to direct them to services if they're willing to take them. That's one of the challenges in dealing with the homeless, and especially homeless with addiction and or mental health issues, is that though there are services and the county keeps allocating more resources to services on a yearly basis, it's getting people to want to take those services and the strings that come along with that, right? You can't house someone in a county-owned facility if they continue to want to do drugs and don't want to participate in addiction treatment. It's not safe for the other people there, so there are rules. And sometimes the rules are the barrier to people accessing those resources.
First of all, thank you for your service. I have a question about the horrific fentanyl crisis that I see on the news every day, and I'm curious how affected our county is by fentanyl.
Yeah, it's having a really big effect on this county. I think if you drive down the 101, you see the signs. Fentanyl is Sonoma County's silent killer, and it really is. I don't know the specific statistics on it, but I do know that a lot of the overdose deaths that we have here are not really overdoses. I would categorize it as poisonings, because the people who are dying of fentanyl overdoses, for the most part, aren't going out and buying fentanyl. They're going out and buying cocaine, they're buying methamphetamine, they're buying some other drug, which they, through their addiction and use of it, have a tolerance to. But for cost and for addictive purposes, the drug dealers are putting fentanyl on it because it's more addictive and it's cheap. And so when someone goes, they think that they're just getting their normal heroin or methamphetamine, and they get fentanyl. They're being poisoned. They didn't expect to get fentanyl, and that's what's going on.
Wow, thank you. I want to thank you very much for being here. Very interesting. And yeah, I have, thank you for being our speaker. And yeah, fascinating. I learned so very much from you that I just didn't know. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, it's time for our drawing. Yeah, there's some real money in it this time. Boy.
And the big number is 3844. Check your number. 3844. You're gonna pick another number. You find it, Rod? Okay. 3848.
Red marble. Not today.
Well, maybe you'll be lucky with this. Thank you. And thank you, Scott. Okay, now a joke. Bob, do you have a joke for us? No joke? Oh, okay, Brian has one. Okay.
I think Rod bailed me out last time, so I owe one. It's not really, maybe it's a thought for the day, but I'm trying to be more vegetarian. And my not supportive friends, one of them said, if God meant for us to be vegetarians, he wouldn't have made animals out of meat.
That was funny, thank you. Okay. Well, it looks like it's time to sing Happy Trails.
Trails to you.